Hi everyone, we're ready to shade our portraits now. Here you can see I've written down our objective for this week, which is to use shading techniques to create a range of value, light to dark, and natural textures. And here's my sample. So I have, the light side of the face, here's the shadow side of the face. Even the hair goes from light to dark, light to dark. The clothing shifting from light to dark. And the background, I've got light, the edge of this tree is light, shadow for the back, and the trees get a little bit lighter as you go back in space. This light to dark is what creates that illusion of three-dimensional form, and it's really key in naturalistic drawing. I've also tried to achieve some realistic textures. So the look of whether it's fabric or facial hair, or the longer hair here, or the form of the face. So we're thinking a little bit about how we're going to use the pencil to create natural textures. I drew out a nose because I figured the nose was a real challenge for a lot of people when you were drawing it in the previous week. And I've got an eye here too, so I might show a little demonstrating with the eye. When we're talking about shading, we're talking about building up marks. So I've underlined that right here for you. You're making a lot of different marks on the paper. Things that you're going to think about, the different kinds of marks you can make. Those might be short, long, curved, straight, circular. Going to think a little bit about the direction of the marks. I'd like the marks to go across the surface if possible to describe the form. Imagine, this being my hand, imagine the marks going across the surface of the form. Also, you can move in opposite directions. So that can even out your shading a little bit or even out your textures. So if my marks are going this way, my marks could also go across the form in the opposite direction. You're also considering the weight of the marks, how heavily. So you can see in my sketchbook here where I sketched that out very, very lightly in the beginning because I don't want those marks to come through just yet. But as I develop the drawing, the pressure is going to get heavier. And you're thinking about the density of marks. So whether there's a lot of space between the marks or if those marks are really close together. Using my example again, there's this lighter part of the beard. The marks are a little bit more spaced apart, and this heavier, darker part of the beard, the hair, the marks are placed much more closely together. Okay, so I'm going to go through each of these just really quick to demonstrate again. I could have shorter marks. I could have longer marks. Use shorter marks for the beard, the facial hair, and longer marks for the hair. I could have straight marks. I could have circular marks. Make a mark kind of like this. Curved. You can consider holding the side of your pencil. This is another way, kind of a fuzzier mark. Mechanical pencil's fine too. You can't get the same kind of edge with it. I actually drew this whole drawing though with mechanical pencil. Thinking about the direction of the marks going across the surface, can make something look more rounded. Marks going along the side. When marks go all in one direction, that's called hatching. When marks come across it, that's called cross-hatching. And cross-hatching can even imitate the weave of a fabric. Also creates more even texture. And then the weight of your marks. So whether you're really pushing or if you're very, very light with the pencil pressure. Density of marks. Marks sort of spaced out. Marks built up. The hair, the way I achieved that texture was really by building up the marks. Quite a few marks, just layering them over top of each other. Longer marks. can even go in and erase out. Draw back into. Realistic hair textures take a little bit of patience, a little bit of time to build. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate this nose really quick. And so I'm going to bring a little line. Again, I'm thinking about the direction of the form. Lines going across the form. Across the bridge of the nose. I'm assuming that light is coming from this way, so the top part of the nose is falling into a little bit of shadow inside of the eye. A lot of students like to smudge, and smudging can soften things out, but don't smudge too much, because sometimes then the drawing ends up being all smudged out. So if I do a little smudging, I usually go back in and rework into it, or go in and do a little erasing, just to clean things up a little bit, because I don't want the whole thing to be too blurry. And work in again, bring in some of that hatching. Looking at the eye. Whites of the eye usually have a little bit of shadow to them actually, so I'm going to lightly get some marks, again, marks going across the form of the eye to make it look more round. Pupil, I'm thinking, where do I want to leave some glint, some light in the eye. I want a little darker to push the pressure down. Usually there's a little more shadow at the top of the iris because the eyelid is creating that shadow. Again, just building up marks. A little lighter in the beginning, heavier as we go. Defining that crease over top of the eye. Now, if you're going to go in and do any eyelashes, I kind of like 2s, 3s, 1s, and really pay attention, like look at your reference, look in the mirror, and look at the direction that those eyelashes are growing in. That's kind of key. Cross-hatching to even out the texture a little bit. And then always going back in and just sharpening, adding a little bit more definition where it's needed. Pressure to darken the darkest values.